old man and a younger gentleman are both sitting next to each other on a train. The old man can overhear the guy muttering under his breath about something. He asks, "Is everything all right?" The younger man responds and tells the old man all about his struggles at home and at the workplace and how much of a load he's carrying day in and day out. The old man lifts up his pant leg and reveals a prosthetic limb. He then says, "Struggle is a hidden blessing, because once it's over, only then will you see the true beauty of success." In life, we go through many periods of time where we feel it'll never get better. When I began middle school, I knew what this felt like. I never knew if I'd make any friends since I was a new kid no one knew. However, like all tough times, I got through it. When we're going through times of hardship, our brains have two responses: work to get yourself out of that rut, or take the easy route and just give up. Battling adversity is never an easy thing to do, especially when it's a reoccurring theme in a person's life. My life hasn't always been about fighting to overcome difficulties, but I have been through the ringer and know what it's like to be in a hole with no ladder to help me out. When I was just in kindergarten, I learned what it meant to truly go through struggle while staying positive throughout the process. I became good friends with a girl in my class that was always happy. She enjoyed going to school, interacting with fellow classmates, and learning. However, she did this all in a different way from everyone else around us. She was deaf. She couldn't hear, and she had to use sign language with her aid in order to communicate with the rest of us. Fortunately for me, I was able to sit at the same table as her. I got to build a friendship, despite the language and hearing barrier between the two of us. Her advisor would constantly teach me some sign language so I could learn how to communicate with her without having to go through someone else first. She was the first person to truly display to me how to overcome what seemed like an insurmountable obstacle. This is something I always keep close to me, even though the only thing I actually remember is how to tell someone to sit using my hands. Watching firsthand the daily struggle she had to go through, but also seeing how happy she always was, made me realize how valuable a positive mindset can be during bad times. Having to live with being deaf while trying to live and interact with the world around you is a near impossible and imaginable task. So the fact that she could do this on a daily basis at such a young age makes me realize how meaningless and small some situations we consider to actually be tough actually are. Ever since kindergarten, I always try to deal with situations in a positive way. I learned that by being positive, you're able to dig yourself and the people around you out of holes you never thought you'd see the top of. However, having a positive outlook on situations is only half the battle. Going to Catholic school for the first 6 years of my elementary school experience, you would think I would have came out as an angel. No. Instead, I was constantly getting in trouble. But to my defense, I did have nuns who were really witches under their garments. Even with that being true, I was still not the easiest kid to deal with. From 2nd to 5th grade, I was getting sent out into the hallway or to the principal's office for being disruptive, bad, or disrespectful in some type of way. When I were to get in trouble, I would always try to justify myself by either putting the blame on another person or making up some elaborate excuse for what I have done. I was a little punk, but I owned it because I felt I was never wrong for what I did. Today I realized that even if the blame wasn't on me, I was still the reason for my own downfall. As I continued through school, I got to start a new chapter in my life, at a new school with kids and teachers who knew nothing about me. I reflected on my time in elementary school and knew I had some growing up to do. I knew I had to be less disruptive, I knew I had to take responsibility for my actions, and I knew I just had to be myself and everything else would fall into place. In middle school and during my first couple years of high school, I would always get in trouble for the same thing and would constantly see the same comments on my progress and report cards. He is a pleasure to have in class. However, he can be disruptive. When I was younger, I always went on the defensive and tried to, again, justify myself for the comments I received. I blamed everyone else but myself. I mean, how could a little talking here and there be that bad of a thing in the classroom? However, as I became older, I realized how unproductive a little talking here and there to a classmate could be to the class dynamic as a whole. Now, don't get me wrong, I still get called out every once in a while for talking when it isn't needed, but I have definitely learned when and where the right times are for me to express my thoughts. Being at Brooks for the past 4 years has helped me to become a better person. From the simplest things like learning how to use a fork and knife to learning how to control myself in times where all I want to do is speak my mind. When I look back at myself 6 to 8 years ago, I see many qualities and characteristics that I still carry today, but also those qualities that caused me to get in trouble and be rebellious. Nonetheless, I'm proud of the maturing I've done, and my experience throughout my time here have helped me grow into the person that stands before you today. 7-2. Feels good to say that. Rewind back 4 years ago. A young Coy suits up for his first preseason football practice at Brooks. I didn't know what to expect. I got onto the field fast, and before I knew it, I was starting in our first game of the season under the lights at Merrimack College versus Roxbury Latin. The game was tight at the beginning, and after punting the ball, we were back on defense. I was playing corner, and after 2 successful stops, it was 3rd and long. I got into my back pedal when the ball was snapped, and I knew right away this was going to be a ball thrown in my direction. As the wide receiver closed the gap between us, I turned and ran with him. The ball was in the air, heading into the end zone. I had to make a play. I went up for it thinking, there's no way this isn't mine. I came down with the ball, and before I knew it, I was up and running to the sidelines in absolute joy. There's no way the season could go wrong from here, I thought to myself. 2 years later, and a 1-15 record was the result. I was down. It sucked not knowing what it felt like to win. Every week over those first 2 years would have been unbearable if it weren't for the love I had for this sport. We were constantly being made fun of, but well-deserving considering the fact we wouldn't just lose games, but we would get dominated week in and week out. This year, my senior year, with a new team and new goals in sight, both the players and coaches knew we could do something special. Coach Foley set 3 goals for us prior to our season starting. Win the first game, go 500, and win a bowl game. I think we were the only ones who knew we could accomplish these goals at the beginning of the season. And I knew that we had something to prove to ourselves and to the school. Our first game of the season set the stage for what was to come for the rest of the year. Pulling out our first win of the season and our season opener on our brand new field in the first under the lights game in campus history in front of our whole school dismantled the dark clouds that hung over our team, and the sun was finally showing. I get the chills looking back on it, something I'll never forget. After tearing through the season, we put ourselves in the position to accomplish our final goal. However, after our final regular season game, we didn't go out on top. The thought of never playing football again devastated me and hit me all at once. I cried. I cried like a baby by the end of it. I thought back to the beginning and through those long and hard years of constant letdown and defeat. It couldn't be over, not like this. Sunday, the very next day, the email came from Coach Foley. It said, "Bowl game versus Westminster," in all capital letters. I was speechless. I didn't know how to react. The only thing I knew was that I would get one more week to be on the field with my brothers, one more week to work my butt off in practice, one more week to leave an everlasting memory and make history at Brooks School, and one more week to do what I love and just play the game of football. Before I knew it, it was game time, and we were back in position to accomplish what we set out to do the first practice of the season. The chance to make history was 48 minutes away, and we had the opportunity to do so on our home field, and that's exactly what we did. We left what we had on the field that day, and just like that, it was over. However, this time, it was on the right side, winning the game 30-12, while also being the first Brooks School football team to ever win a postseason bowl game. The feeling of joy that transpired through me was something that happens once in a lifetime. I knew we made it. After all these gruesome years of letdown, we finally did it. Battling adversity is never an easy thing to do. It may take time, and it will definitely need the right mindset in order to get over that hump. But through adversity, you grow and form into a person with character and experience. Looking back to when I was just 10 years old, causing mischief and getting in trouble, I can see how much I've grown. Not so much in my actual height, but in my attitude towards situations and my reactions to everyday confrontations with people. Going through these experiences has helped me to look at situations with a positive light. I know this will aid me when I have to start all over again next year in college. I'm expecting to go through uncomfortable situations, but I know if I keep my head up and work through the tough times of uncertainty, that I won't be the boy that will give up when met with difficult situations, but instead, that man that fights through everything that is thrown at me so I can be proud of what I've gone through at the end. Thank you.